Hello, my name is Abby Cunningham, and today for this assignment, I'm doing exploring stratification and inequality. So I decided to choose three different images. I chose a car, a house, and phones. These three items we all use within the day-to-day life. And first, we start with the car. Typically, when you turn 16, you get your license, and typically it's a privilege to get a car. And this does definitely show within family to family what type of social class you're in. And as kids turning 16, going into high school, they also can be judged for what type of car they have and if they even got a car when they turned 16, because it is a privilege to have one. And so this is able to show social inequalities within the children's lives and within how other people may or may not get cars when they turn 16 or what type of car they drive in general in day-to-day life. The next one I chose was housing. When thinking about housing, we have different areas that we could say that are the better areas and are the more rundown areas. And so you this definitely shows what type of class you're going to be put in. When somebody's going to look at you from the outside in, you're automatically placed into a social class setting without even them knowing what type of occupation you have, what type of things you have, what your life is all about. You automatically get placed into a box. Um, and then next, I did choose a phone. I think phones nowadays are super popular. You typically do have a phone, but again, when we are looking at the younger generation, typically kids don't get phones till around fifth grade and up. And so does show social inequalities, because if a fifth grader has an iPhone 12 that just came out and somebody has a flip phone, it's going to cause some inequalities and it is going to cause them to feel out of place. Um, Next, we have the class system. So we have the upper, middle, and lower class levels. And this is like the United States class system in America. And when taking a deeper look into the middle class, we do have the upper middle and the lower middle classes. And we kind of have started to separate these two just like within time progressing. And the classes in America are something that function based off of what type of job you have, the income you have, the cars, the houses, and all the things that show on the outside of your life. Some of the benefits to having the class system is by proving to your community that you worked hard for what you have and that you are in the financial capability to afford nice things and to um, let other people know that you have worked hard for what you have. And by giving the respect towards the upper class, some of the drawbacks, and most of the drawbacks would relate to the lower class. The education system is something huge that is really affected by the class systems because of public schools and private schools. And another thing that is another downfall to the class system is by having medical bills. Medical bills are something that lots of families struggle with because of insurance and things like that. And on a day-to-day basis, some of these things the lower class just isn't able to afford. And so those would be some of the drawbacks. The social roles and positions of the class system. So typically people in the upper classes are CEOs and higher up in the chain of demand and in governmental positions. And then when going down to the lower classes, we would look at things like restaurants and cooks and things like that. And then typically on a day-to-day basis, we are putting people into boxes, and typically right when you meet somebody, you're immediately putting them into a box of what their social role is like, what their class status is. And different things like their positions that they're taking on in life. And so, yeah. Class inequality associated with the social institutions. So, um, today I decided to choose the education system. I think that the education system shows people that there are different gaps between social status and has a huge form of social inequality is because of the different levels of education systems and what child is getting what education system. These are solely based off of what your parents are able to afford and what they aren't able to afford when sending you to private school or deciding to send you to a public school. The average public or the average private school ranges from 17,000 and it could go higher, it could go a little lower. And that is just the base price per year for a private school. And most kids don't have the opportunity to go to a private school. And even thinking about charter schools, no, you do not have to pay an upfront tuition for them, but you do have to give to the school. You are expected of donations and you're expected to donate your time and your energy into these things. And some parents work a 9 to 5 and they do have to put their children into the aftercare programs at school. And public schools do mainly offer the aftercare system. Some private schools do, not most, just because it isn't expected that they need to stay after school because their mom or dad should be able to pick them up at 3 o'clock when school gets out. And it's also just such a different education system with a private school compared to a public school. People can gain college credits by junior year of high school by going to a private school, and then they are able to graduate college early and move on with their lives and actually get a very big head start into life. And public schools do sometimes offer college credits. Not all of them do because it does depend on if the teacher is qualified enough. But typically, a public school, you do not have the luxury of being able to get enough college credits to graduate years early. The conflict theory is when people view inequalities from groups with powerful and less powerful groups, meaning that we are always going to be depending on someone. The conflict theory kind of talks about how everything is on a chain. Everything is a chain effect, and they believe the conflict theory believes that the conflict theory believes that everything is in a chain of demand. So when looking at a job setting, you have your factory, like say a big company like Coke, for instance. Coke has their big factories, their corporate offices, their workers that work trying to get the shipments out, and it all works in a chain of effect or a chain of demand. And so when looking at the factory workers, they are needing to work because of the sellers needing to sell the products, and the sellers are relying on being able to get the product by the factories. And so it is always going to be a chain of demand. There is always going to be some sort of motive behind it. You are always going to have something that is important in front of you. And it is all based off of a chain effect. Now, going back to the education system, we are able to help the lower classes with getting their children into better education by normalizing that public schools are okay. And it is not abnormal to send your child to public schools and to send them to their aftercare programs. One way that we would be able to help alleviate the education system is by being able to give teachers a better wage for all public schools, since that is all based on the government. Their wage is all based on the governmental system, and by giving teachers more of a salary, this could really increase their drive to teach the kids and their motives to be certified to teach college level classes and to be able to give the kids the same sort of experience. Another thing would be more funding for the schools for new technology and also creating a uniform that the children can feel at an equal level when starting school. This would be good for children for not to judge others in the certain ways of dressing and for everyone just to be at an equal playing field. Going back to the conflict theory, all growth in life starts in the classroom. By being able to have resources to succeed, it will be able to cause all the children to become good students and become good employees in the workforce. And here are my sources. Thank you.